Hey guys, I'm Aribel and today I'm going to be showing you how I styled my wig for Astrid from How to Train Your Dragon 2. As you can tell, this wig has already been cut, so I already have the fringe and her long sort of side fringe piece that is really annoying and awkward, but we're just gonna go. So I've just pinned my wig onto my wig head to keep it from sliding around just with, standard dressmaking pins. I've got 3 in the top, which should secure it properly. Also got a bunch of other stuff that should hopefully come in handy. Just hair clips to keep the sections separate. Some thinning hairdresser scissors, not sure what they're called, but I really hope I don't need them. And a wide tooth comb, just to get rid of any knots, tangles, because we're braiding. Things are going to get a little messy. A bottle of fabric softener and water mixed together. And finally your handy dandy hairdryer, which basically fixes everything. So to start with, you're going to want to take a section from the top left hand side if you've got the wig facing away from you. It's going to start wherever your part is. Mine's a center part. It should start a bit further over, but that was way too complicated for me to try and work out. And it goes down probably about 2 wefts. Just make sure to keep the fringe out of the way. And yeah, sort of get a nice chunk where if you lift it up, you're not going to see the wefts too badly underneath. And is reasonably thick, and this is what we're going to use to create her small braid. So just sort of comb it through with your fingers to keep it nice and tidy, twirl it up, and I just pinned it to the top of the wig head to keep it out of the way for a second, just with a random alligator clip. I always have issues doing this, it always falls out. And so the reason I'm doing that to start with is so that I can gather all of the other leftover hair, get it, twist it up, and wrap it around the neck of my mannequin, and that's going to keep it out of the way whilst we're trying to do the small braid. And by gathering it all to the left hand side, it actually mimics the way that the braid's going to go, so it helps to, well, I don't know if it actually helps, but I find it helps to sort of keep my hair sweeping in the direction. Final braid. I also always have a reference picture handy, which is kind of really blurry because I have a DSLR and have no idea how to use it. This is my first time making a video and it took me 10 minutes to work out how to actually make it record. I know, I'm terrible. Please bear with me. The focus is going to go in and out a lot and I seriously apologize for that. No idea what I'm doing. Anyway, back to wig styling. So now we have our nice fine braid section. Just take that down, give it a bit of a finger comb to make sure it's all still nice and loose and separate. Refer to reference image, always refer to reference image. And basically what I'm going to start doing is just split it into 3 parts and just start off by doing a couple of turns, I guess, of a normal plait. I'm left-handed, so I always go left side first, but whichever way is easiest for you. If it looks weird, it's probably because I'm left-handed. I get that comment a lot. Anyway, moving on. Now we have our 3 nice sections, which are hopefully reasonably neat. You just want to start doing the braid so that it's tight, but not so tight that you can see the wefts underneath. So I do about 3 crossovers, I think, 3 or 4, enough so that you can start seeing the braid come down. Again, it's entirely up to you, just work off your reference and see how it goes. Now, her braid is lumpy and bizarre and not designed to actually function. I hate animators. Anyway, I just grabbed the right hand side strand, got it, and then you basically want to tie a knot in the braid. So I've got my right hand strand and I'm going to pass it over the top of the other two and then around and underneath to form a loop. And then this is really fiddly. I drop it a lot. I'm clumsy and not cut out for wig styling. Anyway, cut it, pull it up, make a loop, and then pull the tail down through the loop. So you have just literally tied a knot around your two strands, or your two remaining strands. Once you've got that, pull it tight again, and this is where you need to kind of pull it reasonably tight, otherwise that knot's going to loosen up, and it's going to loosen up really fast and go really daggy. So make sure you really keep the tension on it at this point. And yeah, smooth it as much as you need to try and keep it there. And regular braiding. So I do about 3 turns, 4 turns probably of normal braiding, and am constantly referring to my reference images. But it's pretty much just a case of going down the braid, 3 to 4 bits of regular plaiting, and then tying a knot from either the left side or the right side. You can sort of see it a bit better there how I'm doing it, so just loop it around, grab it through the top and pull it so it's coming back down from underneath. You don't want to be tying it so you're pulling the tail up through it. It's going to slip, it's going to go everywhere, it's just not going to end well. I did it, trust me. Not a pretty sight. And you're going to notice when you do it, it's not going to let you keep braiding the way that you want to keep braiding. So just keep doing that the entire way down, and that's how you do the small braid. Not too difficult, or I don't mind it too much anyway. The other thing is, once I reach the height of the chin, I stop tying knots in it because it's going to be hidden in the big braid, so I didn't see any point. Now to secure it, you have your lovely, lovely knotty braid. Just give it a nice spritz of hairspray. I just use a Trace M. In Australia we don't have Got to Be. This one seems to be pretty good, so I just squirt it all over. It's a super hold, and sort of smooth it down a bit, make sure I'm not actually affecting the rest of their hair. And really important point, when using a hairdryer, make sure it's plugged in. Doesn't really work. Yeah, I have a really bad habit of setting everything up and then realize I haven't actually grabbed the stuff that I need or plugged it in. Very awkward. My bad. Moving on. The hairspray will help set it and keep all the hairs going in the direction you want, and the heat sets the hairspray in place. And because the wig fibers are made of plastic, in theory it should heat them up a bit. It's not going to do too much for this braid because it's so thick, but just for the outside bits that go all fly away and horrible, it should help keep them going in the direction you want them to go. And when you're walking around all day at the con, whatever, it's going to try and keep your braid just that little bit nicer. So now we have a lovely, lovely fixed knotty braid where you can't really see the wefts underneath, because that was something I was really worried about, and we'll just hang there very nicely. Now we get to move on to the fun part, the big braid. I don't like the big braid. Confession time. Since making this video, I have redone the bottom of the big braid, and I'll explain how I redid it at the end. But yeah, the big one takes a bit of playing around to try and get everything going the way you want it to go. First things first, you want all of your hair to be going over her left shoulder, so I actually just heated the hair once I had it all lying in the direction I wanted to, just to try and get it to hold that shape a little bit more and everything to sweep over really nicely. So once you've got everything nice and smooth and coming down over that left shoulder, hey look, I've actually worked out how to get the camera to focus at this point. We're going well. We're back to referring to reference images. Also keep, if reference images are on the phone, keep the phone away from the hairspray. Otherwise you end up with hairspray all over your phone screen and it's really sticky and disgusting. I'm making all of the mistakes this time. Isn't it lovely? This is so much fun. Just do it like me. Put a movie on. Do it while watching a movie. That way when it gets really annoying, you can just sit and chill and watch the movie for 5 minutes and then come back to it feeling slightly more refreshed and less aggravated at wigs. Okay. Same deal as for the small braid, bigger scale. I think I've already said that about 4 times. Please bear with me. This is basically just me rambling rather than a proper tutorial. I promise I'll get better. So you want your hair into 3 nice sections. I've sort of got one section that's more towards the front, one section that's all the hair from the right hand side, and then the middle section, surprisingly enough, is the middle parts of those two. Now because it's a side braid, in order to sort of get it sitting or sweeping more over that shoulder, I always start my side braids using the back section. So the small braided section is going to go into the middle piece, and we're going to be able to hide the end of it in the middle of our big braid. Actually no, I changed my mind. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. The braid is going to go in the front piece, and then we're going to hide it in the middle. Same sort of thing. I'm really, really sorry that you have to put up with me throughout all of this. Eventually, I will actually... Okay, so we have the back piece, and the back piece comes over our middle section, then our front section will wrap back around, and just when you're doing those first couple of sections, it's really important to try and make sure all of the hair that's going to be in that smooth back bit is actually smooth. Now this is probably one of the harder knots because it's so high up, but once you've done those first 2 plaits, you want to be able to do the same knot technique using the front strand, grab it, wrap it around, and flip it through the top. Don't worry if it doesn't go quite the way you want it to the first time. Again, you're going to want to put a lot of tension on it because the wig strands are so slippery that it will just slide straight out or end up really, really loose. So once you've got that knot going the way that you want, you can see our braid, our smaller braid, is already hidden. So then we just back to the plaiting technique. So a couple of plaits, and you can already see that one of my tails is getting really short because of all the hair we used in that knot. So grabbing one of the longer tails, we're going to make our next knot. So again, coming down, wrapping it around, and pulling it through. Now this is where what my final braid has ended up with and what I've done in this video slightly differs. So I apologize if this doesn't make any sense, but I'm just going to try and explain how I changed it around. Okay, so what you're going to see is me just continuing doing the standard plait and knot pattern. Unfortunately, after leaving my wig sit for a few days and having half of my knots fall out, I realized this isn't exactly the best way to continue doing this. So it's the same technique, it's just changing what happens after you tie the knot a little bit. So once you go ahead and tie your knot, instead of separating your strands back out into the 3 sections you originally had, what I found easiest to do was tie the knot, get it looking the way you wanted, merge all the hair together, and then create 3. What this does is it gives the knot a little bit more security, and it also means that if you've got a clump of hair that is really long and the rest of your hair is really short because you've been using it to knot, you can separate out the long part, do a couple more plaits, and then use that long part to create the next knot. So you're going to end up with a lot more even a tail at the end, and your knots are going to be more secure because it's going to be harder for them to slip. I can't exactly explain why it's harder for them to slip, but that just seems to be what I've found with how it works. And the last knot in particular is going to be kind of hard to tie because you're tying it around a thinner piece of hair. You've got really slippery wig hair. Your wig, if it was like mine and it was layered at the edges, you've now got shorter bits in amongst all your long bits. They're going to stick out, it's going to be messy, just bear with it. Don't give up on it, it will get there, it will end up looking the way that you want it to look. It just takes a bit of effort to try and finally pull it all together. But hopefully, once you get to the end, you can just tie it off with a hair tie, all the knots stay in place. Later I'll be adding a strap of leather around the hair tie at the end, and also putting the wig on my head, wig cap and everything, exactly how I would wear it, cutting a strip of the pleather that I'm using for the skirt and threading it through underneath the braid and the fringe in order to create her headband. So I do it while it's on my head, work out the length I need, and then take off the wig and sew it while it's actually threaded through underneath the braid. Easier way to do it would probably be to get the make the headband and then do the braid. So the headband is actually locked under the braid. I always do things the complicated way. But once you're done, it's all nice and looking pretty, all the knots are tight and you love it. Same hairspray, hairdryer treatment, spritz the hell out of it, give it a good heat treatment, and it should hold everything in place. It'll be beautiful. Best option is always to go and find an awesome photographer like Steph, and she'll make you look really badass, and then you will love all the time that you spent working on this wig. Photographers seriously help make the costume, guys. Can't promote them enough. Anyway, if this was helpful, if you got sick of me saying anyway too much, just leave me a comment, send me a message. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Let me know what you think. Thanks, guys.